Unit 6 to base.
The rains had transformed a low hollow in the savannah into a perilous trap. What appeared to be solid ground was only a fragile crust above a deep, sucking mud pit. A lioness had ventured too far, and now her body was sinking into the mire. Her chest was trapped, her legs helpless in the thick, sticky mud. Each time she tried to lift herself, the earth swallowed her deeper. Her golden coat was streaked with black, and her amber eyes widened with panic. She raised her head and let out a strangled cry. Her cub circled the edge of the pit, mewing frantically. It pawed at the mud, trying to tug at her mane, but its tiny body was no match for the force of the earth. Again and again it cried out, its voice high-pitched and desperate. The lioness responded with a low rumble, her voice growing weaker with each call. Refusing to give up, the cub scrambled from the pit's edge and staggered toward a dirt track that ran across the grassland. Its cries echoed far and wide until a jeep appeared, rattling over the dry earth. The forest ranger slowed down, frowning as the cub dashed straight into his path. At first he thought the cub might attack, but then he saw how it trembled. Its legs were shaking so badly it could hardly stand. The little creature reached out a paw, then pressed it to its chest as if begging. A broken cry escaped its throat, not a growl, but a thin, childlike sob. The cub lowered its head, ears flat against its skull, then turned back toward the trees, glancing over its shoulder with wide, wet eyes. The ranger stood frozen, his heart pounding, and then he followed. The cub led him forward, stopping every now and then to make sure he was still behind, its cries guiding him. Soon the smell of wet mud grew strong. The ranger pushed through the brush and saw her, the lioness, half submerged in the mud, her body.
Unit 6 to base. I have a lioness trapped in a deep mud pit, requesting immediate assistance.
Another jeep arrived, equipped with ropes and a winch. The men worked quickly, throwing coils around a nearby tree and attaching cables to the lioness. The cub paced the rim of the pit, crying louder, while the lioness gave a low rumble, as if urging her cub to hold on. Engines roared, the cables tightened, and the mud gurgled as the lioness's body shifted. For a moment it seemed hopeless. The mud clung to her like glue. But inch by inch, she began to rise. The mud cascaded off her sides as she heaved herself higher, her cries rough but full of life. With one final tug, the rangers pulled her clear. She collapsed onto solid ground, her sides heaving with exhaustion. The cub leapt onto her chest, burying its face in her muddy fur, mewing with joy. Weak but alive, the lioness lowered her head and began licking her cub again and again, each stroke trembling, yet full of love. The rangers stood back, their clothes smeared with mud, silent and awestruck. For a long moment, the lioness's eyes met theirs. There was no roar, no display of anger, only recognition and gratitude. Slowly, she rose to her feet, the cub pressed tightly against her. Together, they turned and disappeared into the tall grass. In the churned earth by the pit remained the evidence of their story. Deep boot prints from the men, and beside them, the paw prints of mother and child, so close together that they almost touched. Sometimes the wild does not roar, sometimes it sinks in silence, and another heart chooses to answer.